In the beginning of the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam v'Chava. They made a mistake, but after almost 130 years, they did tshuva and restarted their life, and the world followed suit, their original action rather than their later action, and started sinning against Hashem. Sinning against Hashem to the extent where the world became disgusting in the eyes of Hashem. Where at the end of Parashat Bereshit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes in the Torah that Hashem saw the wickedness of man was great upon the earth, and that every product of the thought of his heart was but evil always. Meaning that mankind got to the point that every thought, and Hashem is not exaggerating, like, sometimes you say like, oh, this guy's always in trouble, but not really always. You're just exaggerating because he happens to be in trouble all the time, but not always. I mean, sometimes he's in the bathroom, sometimes he's eating, sometimes he sleeps, sometimes he actually does something good. But, he happens to be always in trouble. So he's always in trouble? No. When Hashem says always, he literally means it. Every thought that mankind had was evil. And we see here, Parashat Noach, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "V'tishachet haaretz lifnei Elohim, v'timaleh haaretz chamas." That the earth had become corrupt before God, and the earth has become filled with robbery, chamas. Now, Chazal, our sages, say that chamas was the last straw. Not necessarily the only sin like some people think, that once you started stealing, that was it. No. Hamas, once Hashem saw that they're stealing from each other too, he said there's no hope for this world. Why? Because initially their crimes were against me. But I still kept them around because they were still okay with each other. But once they started stealing from each other, where one person would open a store selling some type of seeds, and everybody would say, oh, listen, let me taste one. Oh, okay, it's pretty good. No, I don't want any. Another guy would come, let me taste one. All right, take just enough, we don't have to pay for it. And the whole world would come to him, take one. By the end of the hour, he has nothing left. He's bankrupt. And nobody bought a single seed. That's how everybody would steal from each other. Meaning, they wouldn't violate the law by just taking the whole thing, but they would do halachically correct. Halachically correct is rational things. Rational things. Makes sense. I just took one seed. Yeah, but you're not allowed to take one seed if you know you're not going to buy. You know that, right? No. It says one seed I'm allowed to take. He said it's allowed one seed. Yeah, it's allowed because he thinks that if you're going to take one seed, it's because you have the intention to buy, or at least a chance to buy. But if you already know that before you go into the perfume store, before you go into the clothing store, before you go into the vegetable store, that you're not going to buy anything, you're not allowed to walk in. If you have no intention of buying, you can't use their product for free. Why? But they're giving it for free to everybody else. Yeah, under the understanding that the other people are customers or potential customers. You're not a potential customer. What you're doing is stealing. Now, this was the last straw. What was before this? Chavim say the sins before this were even more unacceptable, were much worse than stealing. But Hashem was willing to tolerate them so long as he thought that there's going to be some hope for humanity, because at least they were nice enough to each other. What were the other sins? The other sins, Rabotai Yekarim, were that they were committing every type of immoral crime you possibly can when it comes to sexuality. Incest, adultery, men with animals, men with men, which is in essence the same thing. All types of filthy, disgusting things. Needless to say, wasting seed, the Zohar Kadosh says that wasting seed was the one thing that Hashem couldn't tolerate more than most. Guys wasting seed by themselves, no woman, nothing. Hashem made it was completely disgusting to Hashem. Says this is enough of a reason to destroy the world. But he allowed the world to continue so long as there was hopes that man can recover. But one of the last things that made the world such a world that Hashem had to destroy it was, the Zohar Kadosh says, and the Gemara also says, and many other sages discuss it, is that there was Yisrei Ta'aruvit, it was homosexuality, but not just regular homosexuality, regular marriage of homosexuals. When the government of that time, of that generation of Noach, made it legal and official that one man can marry another man and one woman can marry another woman, that's when Hashem says, I've had it with this world. Why? The Chachamim explain in the Sefer by a Rishon, Rabbeinu Yitzchak Arama, who was Baal a Sefer called Akedah. He writes that making the smallest sin permissible, meaning as if it's not a sin, is worse than making the biggest sin in itself that a person does on his own, by a measure of 1,000 times. And whoever doesn't comprehend this issue doesn't have even the beginning of the understanding of the Torah. End quote. The Rabbeinu Yitzchak Arama says something extraordinary. He says, people are going to sin. Hashem knows this. He created us in a certain way. We have desires, we have a Yetzirah. Both are two completely different entities, by the way. Your desire, your Yetzirah are not necessarily always connected to each other. Sometimes a person is so addicted to their desire, Yetzirah doesn't even affect them. Yetzirah says, I'm on vacation, you're doing the sins by yourself. I didn't even cause it, you can't even blame me. Sometimes a person gets so addicted to their desires, Yetzirah says, it has nothing to do with me. You're the one that put yourself in a situation. I didn't tell you to go do it. Sometimes Yetzirah influences a person to do certain things and a person falls. But the point being is, Hashem knows we have desires, we have Yetzirah and so on. And we're going to sin from time to time, hopefully not big sins, but nonetheless, people are going to sin. He says that sin Hashem knows about. And He's willing to tolerate it to a certain extent. Obviously, so long as He has the knowledge that you have the ability to do tshuva. What He cannot tolerate is when the leaders, call them government officials or fake Erev Rav rabbis, or somewhere in between, when those people say that now this small little sin, it's not sin anymore, it's allowed from now on. Rabbeinu Yitzchak Arama says that in the eyes of a Kadosh Baruch Hu is 1,000 times worse than the biggest sin in the Torah. Whatever you want to consider the biggest sin in the Torah. Chilul Shabbat. Okay, let's call Chilul Shabbat. Wasting seed. Wasting seed. Shulchan Aruch says the biggest sin, right? Whatever sin you want to say is the biggest sin in the Torah, right? And then there is, let's say, I don't know, something that it's considered not a big sin. In the eyes of men, we don't really know how big or how small it is. Something is not really a big sin. Taking, I don't know, a couple of bites out of a pork sandwich. You don't think it's not as big of a sin as Chilul Shabbat, right? The rabbis say, listen, as long as you don't eat the whole sandwich, you're only going to take 2 bites of pork sandwich, allowed. That little sin is 1,000 times worse than violating Shabbat by yourself. Why? Because them changing the Torah to such an extent destroys the entire Torah. What happened at the time of Noach wasn't that homosexuality began. Homosexuality was already there. But now they made it official. They made it allowed. They made it legal. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu could not tolerate it. So this world is full of Hamas, must be destroyed. Unfortunately, the same thing is happening now. Again, not that this is the only other time, the same thing was happening at the time of Greece, at the time of Rome. One of the things those filthy people used to do in their colosseums is fight naked and do all types of filthy things with children and other people. Even the famous kings that we read about in the Tanakh, Nebuchadnezzar, one of the most powerful king that ever lived until Mashiach will come. Hashem told him that he's going to be the most powerful king. Nebuchadnezzar conquered the entire world. Conquered the entire world, but could not conquer his own desires. He was an avid homosexual to the extent where he would command all of the other kings to come to his castle, because in essence he was the big king, they were the little kings. Command them to come to his castle, and the Gemara says he would rape them. He would rape them. Now, he wasn't the only one. There were others too. So homosexuality, this is not new. It's not a new trend in the world today. This filth has always been. But what changed and made Hashem disgusted with the world was that they made it officially legal. And that's actually what's happening now. It's been happening already for a few years, where the government took the first initiative and made it legal for men and women to marry each other, even though it defies all logic and it's completely abnormal. How do you know it's abnormal? Because if all of your parents were homosexuals, guess what? You wouldn't be here. If the parents of the people that voted for homosexuality to become praised and permissible to the extent of legality, if their parents were homosexuals, guess what? They would never be able to make it legal. Why? Because they wouldn't be here. If you had two fathers or two mothers, there wouldn't be you. But for some reason, people miss that point and still think, no, but he was born this way. He was born this way. One of the dumbest things in the world. I don't believe anybody's born that way. I believe people are born with certain inclinations that they don't know how to control. But no one is born homosexual. All it means is that if you're a male and you think you're attracted to other males, it's not because you're attracted to other males, but rather you are attracted to something more masculine than you. And you think that masculinity by default means another man. No, it just means you need to find a masculine woman. That's it. And if you're a one that's feminine, you're going to want more masculine. If you're more masculine, you want more feminine. That's it. That's all it is. But people think, no, if I'm attracted to something that's the opposite of me, that means that it's the same. It's complete nonsense. But unfortunately, people don't think deeply into this stuff because society has made it not only normal, but actually praiseworthy to be a homosexual to such an extent that it's legal. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, different rabbis, Reform and Conservative, also not only allowed it, but actually praised it to the extent that the head rabbi of the conservative movement in Jerusalem is openly homosexual. If that wasn't bad enough, you have many people in the Orthodox world continue to consider themselves religious, yet homosexual at the same time. Hashem says you're an abomination, you have no share of the world to come, but you still think you're religious because you wear a kippah. No, it's just that the act buddy, if you practice homosexuality, you have no share of the world to come. Doesn't matter how many Shabbat you keep. Doesn't matter how much kasher you eat. You have no share of the world to come. Every single time you're with another man, it's isur karet. You don't understand that? Then you don't understand Judaism. No, my rabbi said it's okay. No, he's going to be in Genom right next to you. Right next to you. He's going to be next to best BFFs over there too. He's going to be a rabbi in Genom. But people don't want to understand that. And they try to make the pig kosher. And then you have people that call themselves Orthodox rabbis, like this Rasha, Ben Ilau. About a week ago or so in Israel, came out with a document saying that homosexuality should be tolerated, we should love them, we should accept them into our keilot, even though Torah says we're not allowed to, because they influence the public with their behavior. It's not like they're in the closet like in past generations. People are proud of their homosexuality. They want everybody to be homosexuals. They don't want to stay homosexuals by themselves. They think everyone else is really homosexual in denial. That's the attitude of homosexual people. I know quite a few of them, and I'm telling you, the overwhelming majority of them believe that everybody else is also homosexual. You're just denying it because you're afraid. That's their attitude. They're the most disgusting human beings in the world when it comes to how they express their sexuality. They feel like it's public property to express your sexuality. They feel like you need to know what they do in their privacy because it's not private to them. That's why they feel perfectly fine with their gay parades and their gay pride flags and so on and so forth. You're never going to see a normal human being that has a wife and kids walking around with a flag saying, I am a person that's perfectly normal. Never going to see that. You're never going to see that. You're never going to see a parade for normal people. You're never going to see that. But they feel like the whole world needs to know that they want to act like animals. And unfortunately, they have rabbis that are Erev Rav that are supporting them. Just a week ago, one person came out, but he only got the strength because of Mirvis Arashai. Chaim Mirvis, the head rabbi of London, wrote a whole book about it, tolerating the homosexuals under the law, according to him, of Ve'afta le'racha kamocha. You must love your brother like yourself. He took the entire Torah, threw it in the garbage, put the name of this sin like a mitzvah, and made a name for himself in Gehinom. There's no way to recover from such a thing. Now, unfortunately, this continues, and lehavdil, but really there's not much lehavdil because these people have no olam haba, and the following person I'm going to mention also has no olam haba. The Pope came out and said that he's been wrong about his view of homosexuality. It's perfectly tolerable, and people should be allowed to have children, even though it's two husbands or two wives, and they are perfectly accepted into the community. It's perfectly normal. His view of homosexuality is incorrect. People are just born that way. In so many words, continuing his filthy mind with other filthy things. Now, why do I mention the Pope? Because you see that this filth is attacking all people, not just the Jewish people. But needless to say, the world is getting to a point of where it was at the time of this parasha over 4,000 years ago. In fact, it's there. They have made the intolerable abomination into something that's praiseworthy, permissible, and legal. And this, Rabotai Karim, is one of the most disgusting things that has happened in our personal lives, because you're seeing that it's not really a matter of right and wrong anymore. It's a matter of what do you feel like doing and how do we kosherize it. What do you want to do? Okay, let's find a way to make it kosher.